All right, Rabbi Sai. Sorry, we are late. We are going to be starting Siman 321, which is laws of grinding, salting, pickling, preparation of food, leatherworking, kneading, a whole bunch of assorted malachas. Okay. We are starting Siman Shin Chaf Aleph 321, and with no further ado, let us begin. Starting with the Machaber exactly. Okay, Chavile Pia, Ezev v'Koiranis, Pirshmin Esev, different types of plants, which he translates in the English of the Alter Rebbe, hyssop, wild hyssop, thyme. If you brought them in for the purpose of using them for firewood, then they are muktzah. If you brought them in for the purpose of feeding them to your animal, so then you are allowed to break it off by hand, but not with a keli. And you're also allowed to kind of squeeze it with your fingertips in order to get the seeds out of the pods. Okay, so there's quite a few interesting halachas that we are learning here that relate to different simanim. This is kind of just a random halacha that's just kind of put here because it's in the same sugya as the rest of the siman in the Gemara, but it's really kind of a general thing that affects different siman. So first of all, we know there's a concept of muktzah. Everybody knows it's machlokes in the Gemara between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. If you don't know, then you should know. It's machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda about muktzah. We'll learn more about it in Mr. Shem in the next season. Generally, Rabbi Shimon is much more lenient about muktzah than Rabbi Yehuda, and we paskin like Rabbi Shimon. So one of the things is that according to Rabbi Shimon, which is the halacha, if you set something aside that is a normal, usable, functional keli, even if you set it aside and you decide you're not going to use it, it's not muktzah. For a simple example, you want to sell something. You're going to sell it. So you put it aside with the intention of selling it. You're not planning to use it because you're going to sell it. Nevertheless, Rabbi Shimon says that's not muktzah. And if you want, you can use it. You can take it and use it. Right? I think I gave this example last week. If you have esrogim, you sell esrogim, right? It's a Shabbos before Sukkot. You set aside all your esrogim for sale. They're worth a lot of money for sale, right? You're not planning to use it at all. But what if you change your mind and you decide you want to cut it up into a salad, like in the famous movie, what is it called again? Ushpisen, you want to make an esrog salad. B'vakasha. Shimon says, no problem. That's Shimon's opinion. So over here it's different. Yes?
Why you say it's like you brought it in for purpose for fire?
Yep.
You cannot use for the behemoth.
Yep.
But there's no fire on Shabbos.
No, you didn't bring it in on Shabbos. You brought it in on Friday.
Yeah.
Or on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Yeah, but let's say now you have nothing to do with the behemoth.
Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. These things, because
this kind of, let's say, material can be used for both.
That's correct. So here's the thing. When it comes to something that is a Michael Behema, animal food, straw, for example, or whatever it is that they used or use to feed animals, even if you set it aside and you decide that it's going to be firewood, doesn't make a difference. It's food. You know what I'm saying? Something that's food is food, finished. And because we don't hold the muktzah, the fact that you set it aside for something else doesn't change it. These things, however, some people use them for wood. Some people use them for feeding animals. It's not like it's always clear what it's for. So by bringing it in for one or the other, that's how you establish what it's for. If you bring it in with the intention of using it for wood, it has that category. You gave it that category. And it becomes like wood, it becomes like firewood with all the halachas that relate to firewood, which is that it's muktzah. Firewood is muktzah. Why is firewood muktzah, by the way?
What?
Firewood is muktzah.
You're not using it.
A, because you're not using it on Shabbos, but it's more muktzah than a regular kli shemalachta le'isr. A kli shemalachta le'isr is something that is a keli, but it's used in a forbidden way. That's a low-level muktzah. A pen, can't use it on Shabbos, but it's a low-level muktzah. If it's in the way, you can move it out of the way. If you want to use it to scratch your ear, scratch your hair, you can use it. B'vakasha. Firewood is not a keli. So, and because it has no use other than burning, and burning is not mutter on Shabbos, so you're left with something that's not a keli. But this is not a keli.
Remember when the cotton folding, you're allowed to support it only by the pen to making a pen.
No, that's only with a beam. It's not a beam. That's only with a bench. The bench. You can't use a coir. You can't use a beam. You can't use something that's not a keli.
You said you could put on the roof?
Yeah. A bench. You can use a keli. Hold up a roof, as long as you're not mevatel mechana, it's not too tight, doesn't push it higher, all these conditions.
So what can't be used?
Why can't what be used?
Even be used.
If it's just a piece of wood that has not a keli, you can't. It's not a keli. It has to be a keli.
And what are you putting on the whole roof?
It was a bench. I think it was a bench. I'm pretty sure it was a bench.
It's a bench on the whole roof?
Yeah, a long bench. A long bench. You guys are supposed to remember this just like me.
What are we supposed to remember? I can't hear.
Putting up a bench to hold up a roof that was falling down.
Was that a bed or a bench?
Was it a bed?
No, I'm actually sure what's going to be allowed to. They didn't mention anything about the Torah.
We had it in Shin Yud Gimel, I believe. It's also found in Shin Ches. Kodesh Nishma L'Savor Samita. Yeah, Shukeli. Shomel? Aruch Samita, bed. Yes, you got it right, correct. Okay, if it's a stick, even if it's muchan l'taltel, meaning to say it has some use, like a walking stick, you still can't because it's daim l'boin. Okay, fine. Okay, so basically firewood is not a keli, it's muktzah gomer, you can't move it. If you want to change your mind and use it for animal food, you can't, because it's already considered muktzah.
Let me ask you, I think on the stomach of the sukkah that you're using, is it considered a keli?
No,
You're using it for the soup.
it's not a keli. Doesn't make it a keli. It's still just a piece of wood. Besides the fact you can't take it off on Shabbos
No,
anyway.
it's already just sitting outside. After you do the part.
No. The mats, I imagine that the mats are considered a keli.
Also just a piece of wood on the mattress, whatever sitting on. You know?
I'm sorry?
When you said the meter,
Yeah,
it's like the long beams that basically hold the frame.
yeah, no, it is the frame. It doesn't hold the frame, it is the frame. The bed frame.
It's the long one, it's not the whole thing.
No, why?
I think it's because this is two long ones and two narrow ones.
Yeah, but it was put together. It was the frame. It's the whole frame.
So still, When it's separated, it's just a piece of wood.
No,
When they're together,
no, it's a
it's
keli.
just like a flame.
No. It's a keli. Who said they're separated anyway? It's the whole frame. Doesn't say it's separated. The whole frame. The pashtus is the whole frame. The schach mats, I imagine, are not muktzah. I mean, I was going to say they're a keli, but they can't be a keli, obviously, because if they're a keli, then they're not kosher for schach. But I imagine they're not muktzah because they have a useful function. But I'm not sure about that.
But schach mats would
Schach mats.
not be muktzah.
I'm sorry?
Are you saying schach mats would not be muktzah?
Yeah, I'm not talking about on Shabbos Sukkot. I'm talking about stam during the year.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay. Anyway, if you brought them in for food purposes, so now you can break off from the bundles of these different herbs, whatever they are. You can break off to eat it. I suppose it means to feed the animals with your hands, but not with a keli. Now, this is different, by the way, than regular ma'achal behema. Regular ma'achal behema, the Gemara says in Beitza, I don't know if we had it, I don't remember. But regular ma'achal behema, you can cut it with a keli also. The halacha is, if you have a piece of straw, which is fine food for goats, and I imagine plenty of other livestock, you can cut it and use it as a toothpick. Cut it with a knife and use it as a toothpick. But
Why are you saying for an animal? It says for if they're gathered as animal feed, one may cut and eat them by hand.
Oh, is that what he means? You think he means to eat it?
It's the translation. My translation says that, and it says.
My translation says one may break off portions from them and eat them. You're right, and eat them.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Why would he be eating his animal's food?
It's saying if you have some herbs that are good to eat, then you'd get. It's saying that you didn't originally think it was for you, but it's not for firewood. So
right.
What are you going to do with herbs if it's not firewood? It's not for you. It's your animals. So your original intention was to feed your animals, and you're changing your intention and eating them for yourself. So it's saying if it were animal feed, it would be different. But you can cut and eat them yourself.
Correct. That is correct. He's telling us another chiddush here. That's correct. And even though it's animal food, you are allowed to eat it yourself.
So he's saying, had you cut it for firewood, it would be a problem. And muktzah, but if it's for animal food, which you'd normally think is muktzah, if you want to eat it, it's not.
No. That's exactly what he's saying. Animal food is not muktzah, and therefore you can use it for any purpose, not specifically for animal food. If you want to eat it for yourself, that's fine. Once it's not muktzah, you can choose to eat it for yourself too. It's not just that it's muktzah, but we allow you to feed it to the animals. No, it's not muktzah. You can eat it yourself if you choose to. That's correct. That is taka the chiddush. The Mishnah Berurah points that out. They are somewhat fit for person food. Okay, now here's another chiddush. Avaloi bekli. Oh yeah, that's what I was just saying now. You cannot cut it with a keli. Why is this a chiddush?
Can we make them a show for other masterpiece?
Absolutely.
Azar ben Meir.
Absolutely. Azar ben Meir, the Neshama Shalom Aliyah.
Amen.
So the point is that if it's actual animal food, we said before, I was saying just before, that you're allowed to cut it with a keli. Here, the problem is that these things are sometimes animal food, sometimes person's food, even though you decided it's person's food. But to cut it with a keli still is uvdin d'choil. It looks like uvdin d'choil. Maybe it looks like you're cutting firewood. Chazal said not to do it. Do it with your hand instead. Kasha katuv, avaloi bekli. Sorry?
But you're allowed to cut the food for the animals. But saying Robert, I think you're no?
לא זוכר.
Okay, this one's done.
I don't remember learning a difference between them. for this purpose. I mean, there's by chopping wood, there's a difference what you use. Looks interesting. Definitely looks interesting. I don't remember seeing a difference by this case. Thank you. So the point is, another chiddush is umoilo baroshe etzba oisav. You can roll it with your fingertips. Now this is actually a halacha that we learned already in Shin Yud Tes. In Shin Yud Tes we said that you're allowed to roll grain in order to remove the grains from the husk, even though that's actual dash. I mean, that's what dash is, to remove the grains from the husk.
mentioned it just with your fingertips. Just it.
Fingertips. That's exactly it. It says with your fingertips.
Also with dash.
In Shin Yud Tes, yeah.
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 That's really you doing it with your hand.
You usually do it with your hands. Here you do it with your fingertips. And I don't remember saying you have to use it right away. Rabbi Shmuel Leib is asking why it doesn't say that you have to use it right away. It doesn't say you have to use it right away. In Shin Yud Tes, when we learned this halacha, that you could do it b'rosh etzba oisav, it didn't say you have to use it right away.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. אלעזר בן מאיר.
שומע? That's my question. That's my question.
Repeat the question, please.
Okay, before I get to your question, let me first say the halacha, so we can understand your question, which I think we have an answer for. Test. Yeah, Shin Yud Tes. So there it says, according to the first opinion, which is the main halacha, even though there's another opinion that we'll get to in a minute. There it says that in general, the way to do dash is to remove. Oh, where? Does it say that? Eifel. Oh, very good. Shkoyach. Okay, shkoyach. Excellent. Lachal alta. Very good. Thank you. So it has to be for immediate use. You got it. Well done. Shkoyach. Okay. So, mazeh. OUD. אנחנו לא עושים את זה. לא. Okay. Power is okay, sure. Can. Can. Okay, so here's the thing. What it says in Shin Yud Tes is that when you do it, in general, indirectly, meaning to say that you don't take out the good, but you roll it, and the good falls down to the floor. So that's shinu number one. Shinu number two is that you're doing it b'rosh etzba oisav, and also you're doing only a small amount. So that configuration, Chazal allowed, even though it seems very much like dash. Okay, there's enough differences. You're doing it b'yad. You're doing it b'rosh etzba oisav. It's falling down for immediate use. That's mutter according to the first shita there. Now, if you remember that the second shita said that whole Gemara is only talking about Yantiv, and that on Shabbos you cannot do that.
On Yom Tov, can't you use a mortar and pestle?
We're not talking about grinding. We're just talking about dash. We're talking about dash. Water and pestle on Yantif, it depends for what. Depends for what. But the point is that, I mean, generally, you're not allowed to grind flour on Yantif. I mean, that's something you could have done before.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were talking herbs.
Herbs on Yantif.
I thought you were allowed to because it's better if they're fresh. So so I do ground pepper on Yom Tov because ground pepper is better when it's freshly ground.
It is only slightly better, and therefore you have to do it with a shinui. Herbs are only slightly better. There's not a big difference if they're freshly ground or not freshly ground. So therefore you have to do it with a slight shinui, and it is discussed in Hilchos Yantif. I don't remember exactly what the slight shinui is, because we're going to see in this siman that with a big shinui, you can even grind on Shabbos pepper, excuse me.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to see that soon. So it's not a big shinui, but there has to be a little shinui. We're going to see about that. Okay.
So, no problem according to all opinions.
All opinions. That's a hard question to answer.
All opinions that we would normally care about.
All opinions that are brought in halacha l'maisa. All opinions that are brought in halacha l'maisa.
Really?
Yeah, with a big shinui. We're going to see soon. We're going to see soon what it means. Okay, so the point is that this siman is just bringing down the first opinion there because that's the main halacha. He's not going into it, but in fact there is a machlokes there, and that same machlokes would apply over here as well. Okay, I'm going to jump over to the Alter Rebbe and read the Alter Rebbe. Chavile pia ezav v'kurnis echnissen li'abshin leitzimei mistapim ben b'Shabbos. Echnissen l'maychal behema afilu echnissen b'stam arei stoman gam kein l'maychal behema. Umutter l'stapik mehen. V'koitem v'oichel b'yara v'loi b'keli k'derech choil. U'moy l'shavit m'roshe etz v'oisav l'echel azer sheb'soichon avali b'chol yad k'derech shu'oisav b'chol. If before Shabbos,
Mishnah verses the 18, the option.
yeah. I guess it's just a practical thing.
אם הכניס סתמה, נעשה כמי שהכניסו, וכניסה הכניס לעצים, אם נסתכל להם. כן, אבל בסדר, זה משבוע.
Mishnah Berurah says the Avsham, yeah. I think it's just a practical thing that if it's soft enough for the animals to eat, then it's not going to be hard enough to make firewood out of it. I think it's just a practical thing. So you're either bringing it in for animal food, that means it's soft. Someone's calling me 3 times in a row. Let's see what they want. Hello? I can, but I'm in the middle of something. Can we talk later? Okay, a little bit later though. Everything's fine. Okay, see you. Bye. Bye. All right, sorry about that. Okay, ya ba 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 ba, ya ba ba, a whole feast here. Okay, if before Shabbos one brought in bundles of wild hyssop or thyme to dry, so that they would be fit for kindling, one may not make use of them on Shabbos. If one brought in bundles of the leaves of these plants for use as animal fodder, or even if he brought them in without any specific intent, in which instance it can be assumed that his intent was that they be used for animal fodder. Alter Rebbe is telling us something that Mechaber did not, adding something, that if you brought it in without any specific intent, it is considered as if it's for animal fodder. One may make
Mishnah Berurah says that.
Mishnah Berurah says it too, exactly. One may break off portions from them and eat them with his hands, but not with the utensils he would during the week. Kedera choil, by the way, kedera choil, that's the important key here, that it's like a weekday way to do it. The stalks may be crushed with one's fingertips, enabling him to eat seeds they contain, but one may not crush the stalks with his entire hand, as he does during the week. Okay, yeah, bye. We move right on with the Machaber Beis. Ein oisim melach harbe biyachad loses l'chsoich hakvoshin mishum dedam leibod. Avol yochel lasis mimenu ma'at loses l'toich hatavshil. Machaber says you're not allowed to make a lot of salt water in order to put into pickles, because it's like ibud. What is ibud? Ibud is tanning leather, where they would use salt to extract the moisture from the skin and turn the skin into leather. So that is the da'iraisa malacha of ibud. And midrabanan, to use salt in such a way that you preserve foods, like pickling, for example, is midrabanan considered like ibud. Now, there's actually
I can pickle, but I can't pickle in vinegar or lemon juice or other things, can I?
Actually, that's not because of ibud, that's because of bishul. About using vinegar to pickle.
That's why we have to put on salad dressing immediately beforehand, right?
No, that's about the salt, that the salt shouldn't act upon the vegetables and cause them to be considered like being pickled. So that's about that's why you put the salad dressing together with the salt either right after or before, but you're not allowed to make pickles on Shabbos. You're not allowed to take cucumbers and put them into vinegar and make pickles. That's correct. But that's not about tanning. I don't believe that they use vinegar in the tanning process. That's about cooking. Midrabanan, cooking with vinegar is asur on Shabbos. And that's actually what the Rambam says is the issur here as well, just for your information. The Rambam holds that the issue with pickling is bishul, not ibud. Either way, it's asur. Question is it similar to... who says ibud? I think Rashi. If I'm not mistaken, it's Rashi. Sorry? Sorry? Bishul, yeah. Midrabanan is bishul. To cook. I'm sorry? That's exactly the point. Because we don't cook on Shabbos, that's why we don't pickle on Shabbos. Because the action of the pickling prepares the food in a way that is similar to cooking. Salad, yes, but not to make pickles.
So is this halacha on Pesach, the halacha on Shabbos, because that's to prepare the salty water?
Yeah.
Is the salt?
This is exactly it. This is the source of this halacha, correct? That you can only make a small amount, not a large amount, and you can't make it too salty, as we're going to see here what that means. It's better to make the salt water for the Seder before Shabbos, if Shabbos coincides with Yom Tov. And if you forgot, you have to make it in small amounts, because otherwise it looks like you're making it for the purpose of pickling.
What's a small amount?
Even if you don't pickle, that's correct. Small amount is enough to use for one meal. Which honestly, I cannot say that I understand the diuk of it, because whenever you make salt water for your Seder, you only make for one meal. I mean, who makes for more than one meal? So what does it mean exactly? Make sure only to make a small amount. What's a small amount? Enough for one meal. You don't want to make extra salt water.
Don't make for all your neighbors and friends, I guess.
Yeah, but why would you do that? I mean,
have you not seen? You can buy it in a shop. You can buy salt water in a shop.
I know, but they're not making it for the shop on Shabbos once Amen. Once, so they're not making it at night, so I don't know. Not 100% sure what the chiddush is. But that is correct. That's based on this. Ibud with skin is doiraisa, correct? With animal skin. Ibud what? Oichlin is exer, yeah. Ibud oichlin is only exer because it's not real ibud. The food is just food. You're going to eat it eventually. It just preserves it a little bit. Well, it's similar. Just like the ibud of skin draws out the moisture and preserves it, changes its texture, preserves it. So this also does. I mean, but zelo mezonot, ze shakol. Ma ze shakol? The tiras, the tiras. Yeah. So the point is that midrabanan it's similar because it changes the texture of the food and preserves it, not forever like leather, but for some time. Okay, so basically, you're not going to make a large amount to pickle. Notice that the Machaber doesn't say that you can't make a large amount to use for dipping. It just says you can't make a large amount to pickle with. It means you can't make it for the purpose of pickling. What if you're just making it stam to dip your bread into? It doesn't say.
Well, am I actually allowed to make salt water to pickle in small batches?
No, you're not.
Well,
Because
okay.
it's not a pickle. So what's the purpose of making it for the purpose of pickling if you can't pickle? Why does he say a lot is your question? According to that, you can't even do it for a little?
Exactly.
This is Rabbanan?
Yeah. Definitely that's a Rabbanan.
Oh, is he saying that if you make a large amount, it would be for pickling? Because it starts off saying you can't make a large amount for pickling, as it's similar to ibud, but you can make a small amount to add to a cooked dish. So both sentences are balanced with a reason.
So the Mishnah Berurah brings a machlokes achronim about that.
Yes, it's a Sefer Tosfos Shabbos and Miri. Elia Rabbah.
Place for Shabbos and Elia Rabbah about that. If
Yeah.
the Easter is only for the purpose of pickling, in which case it's difficult to understand why he says harbe, because it's usher to pickle. So even if you make a small amount. But the Elia Rabbah says you can't make a large amount regardless, even if you're not planning to pickle, because it looks like you're pickling. Which would mean even if you're making it for other purposes, for dipping or whatever, you can't make it in a batch that might look like you're going to pickle with it. And that actually explains why it says harbe. I'm not sure according to Tosfos Shabbos why it has to say harbe. Maybe that's just an example that usually when you pickle, you make large amounts.
No, so according to the Sefer Tosfos Shabbos, you're not allowed to make a large amount, even if you're going to put later on or the extra or whatever into pickling stuff. But if it's not his intention, then according to Tosfos Shabbos, he's allowed to make a large amount.
If his intention is not to pickle, he's allowed to make a large amount. He's not allowed.
According to the Sefer Tosfos Shabbos, yeah.
There's no question you're not allowed to pickle. The question is, can you make a large amount not for the purpose of pickling? The Tosfos Shabbos says yes.
Yeah.
The Elia Rabbah says no. Now, according to the Tosfos Shabbos, why does it say you can't make a large amount for pickling if you're not allowed to pickle even in small amounts? So my guess is that a large amount is just an example. Usually when you pickle in large amounts. So he says large amounts, but really you can't even make a small amount for pickling. That's my guess. Nothing is deraisa here. None of it is deraisa. Because you're not actually tanning, you're not actually processing leather, you're not actually cooking, which is the Rambam's view of this whole thing. So it's only Rabbanan. But Drabanan, it looks like you're going to be pickling, which could either be like tanning or like cooking. Okay. If you're going to put in 2/3 salt to 1/3, thank you. I'm still in the machaber. If you put in 2/3 of salt compared to 1/3 of water, then you are allowed to put in, you're not allowed to make even a small amount. Okay. Here's the thing, Rabbi.
That would be an awful amount of salt. That would be inedible.
That would totally be inedible. And the whole purpose of it is to make pickled fish, to make fish in brine. They used to do very high salt concentration. Honestly, I don't know how they would eat that fish with so much salt. So,
This is salt fish. This is
salty fish.
What you do is this is for preserving.
Yeah.
And what you'd then do is you would revive it by cooking it. So you'd make that, and then you'd leave it out, and it would get really, really salty, and all the water would evaporate. And that way you'd preserve nothing would touch that. No, it would never go off. Then when you want to use it, you have to boil it in a lot of water, like salt beef. The way they used to transport, they take a barrel and they put it in there, and then they could, no refrigeration or preservatives back in the day.
Right.
That's how they do it.
Interesting.
That's why salt beef is boiled for hours and in lots of water, and it's still very salty.
Interesting. Because actually, in Shin Yud Ches, we learned a halacha about not being allowed to pour hot water on salty meat in order to remove the salt, to make it edible. If it's too salty to eat, and the way to eat it is by pouring hot water on it That was one halacha. There was another halacha about meat. Yeah. No, it's also there. It's also there. If you look it up, you'll see. Sorry. Shin Yud Ches.
This is what they do on long ship voyages or the army, if they were taking large amounts with them.
Chen kol davar. He doesn't actually say meat specifically. The end of Yud Aleph. The chen kol davar sheinu mavushel shu maluach harbe ve'ein eror la'achila kimel yedei shriya oy hadacha b'chamen. He doesn't specifically say meat. Anything that is not cooked but is very salty and is only fit to eat by soaking or washing in hot water. So that's what it sounds like over here. Something that is so salty that you're going to have to rinse off the salt. But in any case, making such a mixture is going to look like you are planning to pickle the fish. And that's why it's a problem.
To use a lot of salt with the food could be a question. Even if you're eating it like right away.
Salt only without other dressing on vegetables could be a problem, yes.
Even if you're eating it.
Depending how you're eating it. That's the very next halacha, actually. Gimel. Let's actually go right ahead in the machaber.
Not like the people like when you used to
Radish.
radish.
Yep,
Sometimes you put salt just to take the bitterness away to be able to eat it.
exactly. Chaim L'Shem Shem Naliyah.
Called tingling.
Lazar ben Meir.
Zab ben Meir. Lazar, Elazar.
Elazar.
Chaim.
Amen.
Yeah, sorry.
It's called pickling. You put in the salt and green it.
So here we're going to see about that right now. Gimel. Asur lemloya chatichas snoin in the machaber. It's forbidden to salt pieces of radish. Arba Chomish biyachad, 4 or 5 together. Yep. Mibnei shenira kekovish kvashim, because it looks like you're pickling. Hakovish also mnei shukum mavashal. And pickling is usher because it's like cooking. No, Darbanan, kimavashal, like bishul. Rather, you must dip each one alone and eat it. I will bake some, but you're allowed to salt eggs. Okay, so
5 pieces, no, but 1 yes. But you have like 6 pieces people on food, everybody taking 1.
okay. So if you're salting a bunch of them together, even if you're going to eat them right away, it's awesome because it looks like you're pickling. You understand?
Even if you're doing it,
Yeah, because who says you're going to eat it right away? Maybe you're going to put it in the container. You understand? If you're doing one at a time and eating it, so then it's mamish. First of all, there is no actual pickling because you're eating it right away.
if you're garnishing the salad, it's a problem to solve.
No, in your salad, it's allowed because as soon as you mix in the dressing, it breaks the power of the salt. So you can, no dressing, just salt, you can't do it.
I don't use salt at all, so like just in general.
Can use just salt,
No, so
not
oil.
on radishes, not on any
So you
salad.
have actually, let's say you already have the dressing. Okay, now you put in salt.
That's no problem. Because then the salt doesn't have the full strength. As long as you put dressing on, whether before or right after, either way, the salt doesn't have the full power and it's allowed.
Also,
Question.
if you have Shabbat Chatan, you have about 50 people.
Yep.
You cannot do the big amount for all of them.
You cannot do it even for 2 people.
For two,
You cannot even do for yourself more than one
one each time.
piece at a time. I don't know.
Everyone, I'll tell them take a pickle and do it by yourself.
Pickle. How's a pickle?
You know, we're talking about.
No, radish.
Snow.
Radish.
Ah, that's-
Radish. A pickle, you can put salt on pickles. I don't think salt is going to pickle it anymore. It's already pickled. Why would you need salt?
Question.
One second. Rafael, yes.
Could it be that he means that a person would be able to take one salted, put on the plate, another salted, put on the plate, another salted, put on the plate?
That's a machlokes between the Taz and the Magen Avraham. So I'll get to that in one moment. Yeah, go ahead.
So the way I typically make Israeli salad, or some other salads as well, is I directly season the salad with salt, pepper, dill, and lemon juice, maybe. Usually not even lemon juice. Does that mean I'm not allowed to do it that way on Shabbos? I can't season it with individual things like that?
No, there has to be a liquid.
So if I put the salt into the lemon juice,
Oh, into the lemon juice is fine.
so I put salt into the lemon juice, and then but I can do everything other than the salt directly. And the lemon juice isn't considered pickling.
The lemon juice is the same as water, which we said just before, that you can do it in small amounts.
So
Water.
as in a salad for as many guests as I've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
We said just now in Bays that you can make salt water for the dish that you're eating, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's a cooked dish or a salad, there's no problem. Either way, that's not considered a large amount for pickling.
Okay. And dressing and lemon juice is not considered pickling. Or vinegar.
Lemon juice would only be considered pickling if you would make a large amount that may seem like you're going to be adding it to pickles. You see what I'm saying?
So putting it into a salad bowl
It's
of
okay.
salad is never a problem.
Yeah, correct. Huh? All right. So we're going to see right now, actually, about your question. What if you want to dip 4 or 5 at a time and eat them? So here he says in Gimel, you can do each one individually and eat it. Right? It's mashma, you have to do it, eat it, do it and eat it. Do it and eat it. That's what it's mashma. However,
no, it's not so. It's saying that you just don't do them all together. So you don't pour salt all over 5. You pour salt on one and then another one.
Do it one at a time and eat it. It's not exactly clear. But it could be understood that way. But then we go ahead and we read Sif Daled, where it says clearly, some say, and this some is none other than the Maharoi in the Trumas Hadesha. Bareinu Avrav Yisrael Isserlon, the Trumas Hadesha. It's only a practical thing. The Etzem, it makes no difference. The practical reason that he says dip them is if you have 4 or 5, if you put the salt on them, it's going to go on all of them together, and then it's a problem that it looks like you're pickling. So if you do one at a time, the only way to do it practically, if they're all there, is to dip it in instead of sprinkling it on. And then, according to the Trumas Hadesha, it's mutter. Let me explain why. As far as pickling is concerned, it doesn't look like pickling because you're doing one at a time. As far as ibud is concerned, he says, because you're eating them pretty much straight away, even though you're not eating them immediately, mamish, you're eating it in the course of the meal. That's mutter, according to Trumas Hadesha. Yep.
Does it mean that you're holding 5 pieces together, or if you're going to be on the plate, spread 5 pieces, but there's no touching it, it's not like in the pile. You're going to be allowed to put salt on it?
Well, I think so.
So the concept of that one would be like...
The concept is that you can't do it together.
When you say together, when touching together, or that together on the same plate?
That one action is salting them all together. That one action is salting them all together. The reason that he says you can dip them is because practically, if they're together and you salt one, it's going to salt them all. But if you would have one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, according to the Trumas Hadesha, you could do separately and then eat them. And not everybody agrees with this Trumas Hadesha. And notice how the Machaber says, Yesh Misha Oimer, Yesh Misha Kasu, excuse me, because others disagree. None other than the Or Zarua. The Or Zarua was also a Rishon, by the way. Both are late Rishonim. The Or Zarua holds that you cannot even salt 2. You're only allowed to salt and eat one at a time, because by the time you eat the first one, the second one has already started to sweat. Sorry? No, it starts right away. It starts drawing out the liquid right away. So it's only mutter to dip it and eat it. No time.
No time. So if you got 10 people like that, you cannot give to everyone one and salt everyone?
No, every person has to salt their own.
By himself.
Every person has to salt
Even if he doesn't want to eat it?
Then he doesn't, then he shouldn't salt.
No, I mean, he wants it and then it changes.
Shouldn't salt it if he's not planning to eat.
Maybe they're talking about really, really salty stuff. Because I would never, ever dip vegetables into salt because you'd end up with way too much salt on it. I would only ever sprinkle on a tiny amount. Maybe it's okay if you only sprinkle on a tiny amount.
No.
It's not full circle.
I'm not makabel Chiddush.
Would you ever dip vegetables into salt? to eat?
I don't recall ever doing that. Although my kids, who seem addicted to salt, you never know. But I'm not going to be makabel that chiddush simply because
Nobody else ever
it doesn't
has.
say any shear here. It doesn't say any shear. And the fact is, whenever you do salt vegetables, you do see that the salt draws out the liquid, which is the issue.
Yeah.
Drawing out
Okay.
the liquid is considered to a small degree like ibud.
So why are they hung up on this dipping? Everyone's talking about dipping. I would never want to
That's an
dip it.
example of how to do it in a way that doesn't affect all of them. How do you eat it if it's so salty? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Particular example, can you give us? Today nobody actually go and pick up something. But why-
Really? Why not?
On Shabbos?
Not on Shabbos, because we're learning this halacha, but people pickle during the week. Why not?
Yeah, but today everything that unintentionally you're going to do it and you'll be like actually pickling it or other in normal Shabbos.
I mean, during the week, it might not be uncommon to slice a cucumber, sprinkle some salt on the slices, and put it on a cracker and eat it.
On Shabbos.
On Shabbos, it's a problem.
On pickle? On cucumber?
On cucumbers, yes. Snoin is an example. It doesn't have to be a snoin. Any vegetable is going
Okay,
to,
so if snow is not exactly the issue, why keep a snow on other words?
because that's just a practical thing that people used to do. Doesn't have to be a snoin. Anything that the salt will extract the liquid, which it does, is a problem. Tomatoes, same thing, same exact thing. You want to sprinkle some salt on your tomato and put it on a rice cake, a bit of avocado, only one at a time. One piece of tomato at a time, not two. That's what we're learning here.
Me personally don't have a problem.
Could you repeat what you just said, please?
How are you going to put on a whole tomato?
About
It's
tomato.
bounce right off it. You mean a half a tomato, maybe?
No, even more, small tomatoes or whatever, it is, you put a little, or you have it on the dish, and you.
Yeah, let's see why not.
Yeah, or-
Let's see why not.
What about the salad? We have cucumbers,
The
lettuce.
salad is only mutter because we have dressing, and the dressing breaks the power of the salt. You would not be allowed to only put salt on salad. That's the header.
So the dressing can be made of what? Can't be made of vinegar or only vinegar.
It can be made of vinegar, yeah.
Can be only vinegar?
Could be only vinegar, yeah.
Isn't that a way of you pickle it?
So it seems like vinegar is only a problem if you actually pickle. Salt is a problem even if you don't pickle, but even a small amount looks like pickling. Vinegar not, I'm guessing because the salt, you see the effect on the food more clearly. You see how the food actually sweats.
Sure, it's because of ibud.
It's either ibud or bishul.
But with salt, it's different to everything else because of ibud.
Oh, right. According to the opinion, that's Rashi's opinion. So your question is, according to Rashi, it's easy to understand why we only,
According to Rambam, it's
salt,
less easy to understand why salt would be different.
why salt is different than vinegar, but still, it could be that the effect is more immediate than vinegar. I'm sorry.
Most of the things, one of the many ingredients is actually vinegar and salt. When you put the dressing on the salad, you put it like a way to pickle.
Your what? Your what? Sorry?
You put the dressing on the salad,
Yeah.
or the vegetable.
Uh-huh.
It's take more than a few minutes until you can eat it.
Mhm.
You're not pickling it. It's vinegar, many ingredients vinegar in the dressing.
Yeah, but it doesn't pickle your salad. Nobody likes pickled lettuce. To pickle the lettuce, you have to leave it.
Salt is not pickled by salt. The main ingredient to pickle is vinegar.
I know, but the vinegar takes more time. I don't know the sheer.
Salt is not in the pickle.
It changes the consistency of the vegetable more distinctly than the.
It could be that it's going to make it unedible.
No, that's not the issue.
It's going to be too salty, you're not going to eat it.
No, that's not the issue.
Why not?
It's not the issue. Why is that an issue? It's to be a malacha. There's no malacha of making something inedible. It has to be a malacha. What's the malacha? The malacha is either pickling because it's like cooking, or pickling because it's like tanning, ibud. But the fact that it's inedible, that's whatever. It's a waste. It's baltashkas, but that's not the main issue here. Okay, let's learn the Alter Rebbe, because the Alter Rebbe spells out the machlokes between the Or Zarua and the Trumas Hadeshin in a more clear way. Siv Beis, and he also gives us a little hakdama, as is the style of the Alter Rebbe. Whenever we come across a new malacha, he gives us some background information about it. Tanning leather is one of the primary types of malacha. Because in the Mishkan, they used to do ibud to the skins of the tachash and the rams. Different opinions about what the tachash is, whatever. A person who actually salts actual animal skin is chayav because of tanning. Because that's one of the things they used to do, is to salt the skin. But a person who salts raw meat, even if you salt it a lot, so much so that it's going to be preserved and it's not going to go bad, like beef jerky, turning your beef into beef jerky. Potter, it's potter. Shein ibud ba'ochlin. Potter from any isur d'oraisa. Korban, kores, skila. There's no punishment in this world. See also section for does apply to fats. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, Potter minatayr. Sheni v'achel minatayr. There is no ibud by oichlin minatayr. But Rabbanan, there is ibud ba'ochlin. Therefore, it is forbidden to salt raw meat, even if your intention is to eat it on Shabbos, right? To salt for after Shabbos. Anyway, you can't do hachana. So you figure, I'm going to salt it, and I'm going to eat it on Shabbos. You're allowed to eat raw meat if you are so inclined. If he has not yet salted it to remove the meat from it.
Blood.
The blood from it, excuse me.
So our modern meat is not a problem because it's already been salted.
Exactly. As he points out in note 10, from the Alter Rebbe's wording, it can be inferred that if the meat was already salted to remove its blood, it may be salted again so that one can partake of it in a meal served immediately thereafter. As opposed to, by the way, salting it long-term. To preserve it long-term, that's usher, even if it was already salted to remove the blood.
Is it a problem then, if before when you only have to salt it for cooking it, and you can eat it without salting it?
Yeah.
But if you salt it and eat it, isn't it a problem because the blood on the outside is a problem?
No, you wash the blood on the outside. That's part of the salting. You have to wash the blood on the outside.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is, if you have a piece of meat that you can eat raw without salting, and someone chooses to salt it so that it will taste better, that's a problem, isn't it? Because the salt, the blood on the salt on the outside, you've just caused a problem.
Once you salt it, you have to salt it in a halachically acceptable manner. It's all or nothing. You can either eat it raw, just washing off the blood that's on the top, or if you choose to salt it at all, then you have to salt it in the halachically proscribed.
Right, that's my point. Okay.
Absolutely. Lefi sha'melach moyel lebasar chai. Oh, shkoyach. Lefi sha'melach moyel lebasar chai shlemim l'chadayin l'rak choy l'sak min l'achshir l'achila. Because salt helps for raw meat that was not salted yet, to soften it and prepare it and make it ready for eating. But in this sense, it is similar to ibud. And so, certainly it's asr to salt it in order that it should last and not go bad, even in a case of a great financial loss. Right? It's an Issa D'Rabbanan. Can't do an Issa D'Rabbanan on Shabbos, even for a great financial loss. Even if it was already salted from its meat, like I said before. To salt it for the purpose of preserving it, that is similar to Ibud, even if it was already salted to remove the blood from it. So too, it's usher to salt other food items on Shabbos in order they should last, even in a case of hefsed meruba. All right? Good, all good?
So regardless, you're not allowed to use add salt to fresh meat.
No, you're allowed to add salt to fresh meat if it's already been salted to remove the blood, as long as you're not salting it to preserve it for long term. If you want to salt it to eat it on the day, the Alter Rebbe allows it.
Like meat on Shabbos.
Exactly. Raw meat. Chaim.
אפילו במקום אסור ואפילו נמלט ובשעת דבר מדמו וכן שעת דברים אסור למלח בשבת כדי שיתקיימו אפילו במקום הפסד מלוך.
כדי שיתקיימו, נכון.
אבל עדיין זה אומר אילי. Nothing to do about that you want to eat it. So basically, you're not allowed. Nothing to do with eating. That's not nothing, but you want to eat it. No?
She does.
Where?
ולכן, אסור למלוח בשר חי, אפילו כדי לאכול חי בשבס, אם עדיין נמלח להכשיר מדמוי. It's also to salt raw meat, even if you want to eat it raw on Shabbos, if it was not salted yet to remove its blood. Stop right there. Meaning to say, if it was salted to remove its blood, you're allowed to salt it to eat it raw on Shabbos.
So why put it in this line only?
Actually, usually the Sagrayim means that he wasn't sure about it and he wanted to think about it again. And that's why I put it in parentheses. So
what
maybe
is the machlokes about it?
not necessarily machlokas. It's like a chiddush, and the Alter Rebbe wanted to revisit it. You left it in parentheses, planning to decide later. So maybe
Initially, it was nothing to do if it was salted before or not. It was not allowed to be salted to be if you want to eat it. And then added like
that's a simple halacha. Alter Rebbe has a chiddush. It's already salted once. You can salt it again, but wasn't sure about it. La halacha la ma'aseh, kept it in parentheses. So
if I pickled the cucumber, okay, I'm allowed to add more vinegar or salt into the jar on Shabbos to maybe to expedite or I don't know. This the recipe says that every 24 hours later I have to add more vinegar. I will based on this I will be able. Once we're going to eat it on Shabbos, I'm going to be allowed to add the vinegar or the salt? Or just to be mechanical, so it can be better for Sunday morning. Based on
It's already.
this law. Just to be eating, you're allowed to add only for eating on Shabbos, or you're allowed to add because you added before.
I'm going to venture to say that the pshat is that raw meat that's already been salted once is not affected by the salt in the same way that vegetables are. You understand? Vegetables, you can't put salt on even for a short time because
We're talking about meat specific.
I understand, but the meat that's already been salted, Alter Rebbe says the effect of the salt on meat that's already been salted, so it already took out all the blood, salted al pi halacha, you left it in, half hour, an hour, whatever it is, there's not much left. So that is not going to be affected by more salt for boiba yoim. The kiyum it is going to be affected, but the boiba yoim is not going to be affected. So I don't know if it's a good comparison to what you're saying about adding vinegar to pickles where it is being pickled, you understand, and you're pickling it more. So if you can't pickle on Shabbos, I presume you can't make it more pickled on Shabbos. You see what I'm saying? It's not the same as here where this meat is actually not being pickled. Because once it's salted once, the effect is not so big. Try what?
In the seed, there is an opening in front of what you said.
I don't think so. Lo nirali.
Once it's pickled, how can you pickle a little more?
Ain't pickling after pickling.
What about according to the Rambam, where it's an issue of bishul? Are we then saying, and we know that
One second.
salted meat is...
One second. Shmuel Leib is saying if it's already pickled, maybe you could add vinegar because there's no pickling after pickling. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know if you can pickle something more than if it's already pickled. Can you pickle something more? I don't know. What do you say, Yossi? I'm sorry.
Even if you could pickle it more.
I know this question doesn't make a lot of sense, but what about according to the Rambam, where it's not about where it's about bishul? And I know that we're not going to say that because it was already salted, it's already had bishul, because that would be ridiculous. Then you could cook meat.
Separate.
According to Rashi, it makes perfect sense.
I'm not sure if Rashi and the Rambam argue about meat. Could be that meat is similar to ibud, even according to the Rambam.
So we're saying that it's no one says that it's already had bishul, but we're saying it's already been tanned. It's already had ibud.
The fact that it's already had ibud doesn't mean that there's no ibud after ibud, because we see you can't do it l'kiyum. But that the effect of a minimal salting after it's been salted once is not like ibud. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this the Durabanan does not cover salting after it's already been salted.
Exactly. Unless
But
it's
this is the Alter Rebbe's
you can change. I don't see. Honestly, I didn't look up the Rambam, so I'm not sure about this. But in the Alter Rebbe, at least he doesn't bring this machlokes, and I didn't see it in the other sources also. He doesn't bring this machlokes Rashi and the Rambam about meat. He only brings it about vegetables. So I'm just thinking that maybe meat, because it's more similar to the skin of the animal, it's the meat of the animal, it's the skin of the animal. Maybe the Rambam agrees that that it may be more like ibud, but I'm not 100% sure. A simple thing to look it up in the Rambam might clear it up very quickly. Yes.
Salt putting the radish or it's taking taking away from the taste, correct?
The sharpness of it.
The sharpness.
Yeah.
So let's say taking grapefruit, and putting the kind of hot and putting sugar, not salt, sugar to it, because it's like the bitterness away. It's going to be also like Mahavir. You put the sugar to take the bitterness of the grapefruit away. So give it the same thing that you put in the salt on the radish to take the bitterness away.
Interesting, Shaila. Are you allowed to put sugar on grapefruit?
Sugar doesn't draw
Sometimes you dip
Sugar doesn't draw up moisture? Maybe it does. How do you know it doesn't?
not the way it's
strawberry.
salt.
You dip in strawberry in sugar.
You have two different kinds of salt. You have the small and you have the large. For kasha, you use the large because that draws it up. But if you use the small goes in.
But yeah, but you can use a small too. It's not like it doesn't work. It doesn't work as well.
We want to get the blood up. So you use something that's going to draw it rather than suck it in. If you use very small, fine salt for kasha and meat, you don't get the blood up.
You do. That's why b'diavad is kosher.
Oh.
It's not lachatchila. It doesn't draw it out as well as the large salt. It's true.
But I don't, sugar is used
6,
to
not
cure
7.
things.
Why you didn't daven yet?
Sugar.
Do you have any friends around? I can try for one, but only if you have another 2.
Sugar is used to cure things.
I was
Not
not sure.
sure.
Wait, how many did you do? Rabbi?
I did not daven.
I got it.
I had to because it's on the outside.
I hope it's not video. I understood that.
So there's no problem putting sugar onto a grapefruit
That's the
because there's no problem putting salt onto a radish. It's just if you can't do lots of grapefruit, surely.
I wish.
We're not eating Pringles, by the way. David is asking about the Pringles. Yeah, the Pringles became OUD, but these are not Pringles. These are Tostitos or something. Yeah, I read an article. I haven't seen them yet on the shelves, but apparently Pringles went OUD.
The Israeli hash, like Israeli.
No, the OU, the regular OU. Regular Pringles.
Everywhere we sell them.
What about regular Pringles? No, speak.
Morning.
The Rebbe liked to eat a lot of salt. No, it is what it is. So what are you saying, Yossi? You're saying that grapefruits are definitely, I mean, salt, if you want to talk about tanning, about ibud, Shmuel Leib, if you want to talk about ibud, sugar is not used for tanning. If you want to talk about bishul,
I don't think.
sugar affects food in a way that would cook it chemically.
No,
I don't think so. I think it has to be salt.
But it's not.
Sugar is used as a preservative?
It is definitely used as a preservative.
Preserves. That's what they do with the fruit to preserve it.
I think you can also use it for meat to preserve flavor.
Really?
I think so. Well, that's
Interesting.
not a common thing.
Interesting.
It's sweet meat.
Interesting. So you're saying maybe it should have the principles of bishul.
I don't think it's hot. I think what happens, you use salt.
I don't think so.
To warm it, and it's, well, I don't think sugar does that, but I might be wrong. I don't know.
Right.
So dipping the strawberry in sugar also going to be an issue?
I didn't say it's an issue. I said it's something to think about. I can't imagine that it's usher because I've never come across that. And I'm pretty sure that the Shmir Shabbos says that it's mutter, but I didn't see it recently. So you'll have to remind me tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get back to you about that. All right. Here goes Alter Rebbe. Siv Gimel. V'chein also lasses me melech merubim. Oishar mashkim in melech merubim. Lasses l'sechak b'lashem. Deine mine yorkas ashadruam shekavshim l'eskayim. Afilu yochel mem gam la'alter shenet york b'shvil achor levad. Yikol mokem kivin shekavish oisim l'eskayim dem le'ibut shemelech mekayim on. Here. Similarly, it is forbidden to make a large amount of salt water or to mix other liquids with a large amount of salt to pour them into foods that are being pickled. So whether it's water or other liquids, you're not allowed to make a salt water or salt other liquids in order to mix it in foods that are being pickled. For example, types of vegetables, other foods that are being pickled to preserve them. Prohibition applies even if one will also immediately eat some of the foods being pickled, and thus he's not acting solely for the sake of the weekday. Nevertheless, it's forbidden since he's salting them to preserve them. This is an act that resembles tanning, because the salt also preserves the vegetables for future use. Just like tanning preserves the skin, this preserves the vegetables. Some say that pickling is forbidden because pickling is considered as cooking according to rabbinic law. That's the Rambam.
Does that mean I can do it on Yom Tov with no problem?
For eating on Yom Tov, yeah.
But according to people who say that, according to Rashi, We're allowed to salt meat on Yom Tov to kosher it,
Yeah.
so we must be able to do all of this. But can I make coleslaw on Yom Tov with vinegar?
Why not?
Okay, because I can't make it on Shabbos.
Why not?
Because you need you're essentially pickling the cabbage. When you make it, you need to make coleslaw, say, an hour beforehand, ideally, and let the vinegar pickle it a little bit. You don't put on the vinegar immediately before eating it. You put salt and vinegar on it.
I hear you.
Very hard to use,
Yossi is saying that you should not be allowed to make coleslaw on Shabbos. Coleslaw. Coleslaw.
Not the mayonnaise variety.
Coleslaw with vinegar, he says, is pickling the coleslaw, is pickling the cabbage.
What do you put in the coleslaw? The salt?
Vinegar.
The salad dressing, when there is vinegar, has to.
Yeah, the thing is,
Vinegar or salt will pickle it. When you not the one that you make with the mayonnaise. When you make the one with the mayonnaise.
No mayonnaise. Yeah, go ahead.
But what the way that I make coleslaw is I take the cabbage, I put on salt and vinegar, and I squeeze it together. And you need it to go a little bit soggy. You don't. Otherwise, the cabbage is too sharp. So you'll always make the coleslaw in advance. So I don't make it on Shabbos as a result.
I hear you. I don't know. I find myself dumbfounded. Is it also to make coleslaw on Shabbos? Is that considered pickling?
Does cabbage pickle or whatever you're using to make coleslaw with?
I mean, sauerkraut is basically pickled cabbage. That's what sauerkraut is.
It's not something that happens 1, 2, 3.
But he's saying that maybe coleslaw is considered already pickled. You're basically asking, what's the getter of pickling? What's the shear of pickling?
Well, I'll tell you what you should do. Make yourself some coleslaw.
Yeah.
Eat it after 1 minute, and then eat it after 1 hour. Look, I imagine if you just put a salad dressing on cabbage, there's no problem, and you eat it immediately. If that's the way you eat it, that's the way you eat it. I never serve it like that.
I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you: did you see anywhere that it's asur, or you're just you understood that it's asur?
Oh, I just don't do it because I understood that it's asur.
All right, so I have my homework cut out for me. I got to look into, what was your question? Yeah, sugar. Your question was sugar on grapefruits, and Yossi is asking about coleslaw.
Strawberry and sugar.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
But what is actually before, you have to put the salad dressing, it's vinegar. You will have to put it.
you are, because certainly your intention is not to pickle. You don't want to pickle your salad.
It's adding something it's affecting the vegetable. Putting on chasa.
Yeah, but not in a way that's considered pickling. Nobody considers a salad pickled. And if they do, they don't eat it.
You're putting salt on the radish that is pickled. You want to eat it, you're putting and you're eating it.
No, salt is different. Salt is something that they use for,
But vinegar is the main ingredient for pickling.
I understand, but you have to leave it in a certain amount, and then it's pickled.
So you have to leave salt certain amount. Even when you want to salt the meat, instead to be certain amount, it's not really considered salted.
So,
According to Wikipedia,
I'm putting it on 5 pieces at the same time, and I'm going to eat it in the next 2 minutes, it's going to be an issue. When salting the meat, it's have to be certain amount, 20, 40, whatever minutes it needs.
so salt is different because you see with your eyes that it starts to sweat. It starts to sweat as soon as you put it on. You can see it yourself. You put cucumbers You put the salt on the cucumbers start to sweat right away. Within seconds, they start to sweat. Because that's what it does. It draws out the liquid. So I'm not saying it's also because of that, because that's a machlokes. Understand? The idea of that you can't do more than one at a time is a machlokes. The Trumas Hadeshen says you can. Or Zarua says you cannot. So we're going to see more about that machlokes. But you see that there's a difference. Because by pickling with vinegar, you don't see a difference from 1 second to the next. But by the salt, you see it starts to draw out the liquid right away. So that's why there's room, maybe, to be melted. It's not just melting. That's what sugar does. Sugar melts, that's what I'm thinking, although I don't want to say because I'm not going to do it. But salt draws out the liquid from inside. That's the difference, I think.
2 things.
Yes?
Just a quick search on Wikipedia at the top. It says, coleslaw prepared with vinaigrette may benefit from the long lifespan granted by pickling. I'm not saying it's a halachic sauce, but at least in the general consciousness, a vinegar coleslaw is known to be a pickled substance to some extent.
Right.
And secondly, sugar is used as a preservative, but I don't think it actually pickles. It candies, which is very, very, very different. It just coats what you've got in sugar, and that makes it very resistant to bacterial infection.
Right.
How does this become different than salad dressing? This vinegar, because
That's
when you have
what
vinegar in salad dressing.
Salad dressing is not done for the sake of pickling, certainly, and nobody leaves it in purposefully with the intention of pickling.
Yeah, so can't coleslaw be the same thing unless you're just dressing the cabbage?
But that's his question. His question is that he specifically does it early with the intention of having it have that kind of pickled taste. That's his question. I also will mention that cucumber salad also definitely tastes better the more it sits in that in the brine.
The historical way of making cucumber salad is to salt the cucumbers and actually before you do it, and then to separately, individually. So I worked with a Hungarian chef who did that.
Right. So I'm wondering what's the heter to make a cucumber salad on Shabbos.
And the same thing with tomato and onion salad, which is a very well-known salad. You want tomato and onion salad is not pleasant until the salt and the pepper and the oil have all managed to get into the tomatoes to draw out all of the tomato juice and mix it with the onion. It's otherwise very sharp. There's a big difference between making it between eating it after 1 minute and eating it after half an hour.
Right, but I don't know if that's called pickling per se. The fact that it draws out the juice, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's called pickling.
I don't know either.
Because the effect of the salt when it's mixed with oil is said not to be as pronounced. And, so as far as the salt is concerned, it's not an issue. As far as pickling, I don't know. Yeah.
Let's say a salad that you put salt or vinegar or dressing
Yep.
on Friday night.
Yep.
And then left over and you eat the rest of the second shot. You consider like the process of now this an extra 12, 14 hours, and you consider pickling. Those you are tempted because leftovers.
Right.
You will actually keep it because they have this vinegar or salty greens that you add.
What do you say?
We're supposed to eat for the day. We're supposed to eat immediately.
You have leftover, you can eat it by day. Why not? What if you don't finish your food on Friday night? You can't eat it by day?
Not like a salad. You prepare it on Shabbos.
You're not supposed to make salad for using later on because you're cutting it in pieces that are a little bit small. But if you made it already and there's some left over, you don't have to throw it out.
Even to have salt on it and vinegar.
I'm sorry?
even so that you added salt and vinegar, now for sure, it's gonna be the time to get active.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but you didn't do it on purpose.
No,
So we should punish you for doing an Issa D'Rabbanan b'Shegeg?
not horrible.
It's not, yeah, it's not Shegeg, it was left over. I don't think so. We have to figure out more about this pickling thing. Let's finish Allah, Rabbi say. Lafila lasses me melech.
Person don't have, I don't need all the stuff, so.
Why not? It's healthy.
I don't need to start with salt and nothing.
All right. Lafila lasses me melech Hashem mashkin and melech. Shaloi losses is a question. Latil b'hem es pitoi.
It's like the,
Yeah, Gimel. V'lasses sechat avshel. Os lasses mehem harbe b'yachad. And lasses v'lasachas tzorchti b'shtei sudas ela ma'at l'tzorch surachas b'vad. Nei shekshoi mehem harbe nir kilu oisam l'kvish. So if you want to make salt water, not for pickling, just for dipping, you can only, for Pesach, let's say, you can only make it for one meal, not for two. Because if you make it for two, it looks like you're making it for pickling, because you're making such a large amount.
okay, when it's in one meal, I'm not worried, because the main thing that you need is the water, not the salt, basically. So the one that's gonna be affecting the meal for one meal or two, it's the water, not the salt. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, how much
So
salt?
what, it's like, let's say you're gonna put 1 ounce of water, you're gonna put 1/3 ounce of salt.
How much? It doesn't say how much, as long as you don't put 2/3 of salt. The point is you shouldn't make any extra. Just make what you need for exactly that meal.
Between the water and the salt that you do.
He doesn't
You put
say.
1 cup of water.
As long as it's not 2/3 salt. That's all.
So it can be 30% salt, the rest.
That's okay. That's okay. In addition to that, you shouldn't make more than for one meal, because then it might look like you're making a big quantity for pickling.
So let's say you shouldn't keep the solid water from the first layer to the second layer.
You shouldn't make more than you need for the first Seder. Once you made it, you can keep it.
As much as you make this, how much actually you use when you keep the.
Doesn't make a difference. You need it. You can't make a little drop.
But you still have the majority left.
Okay, fine.
So I shouldn't.
It doesn't say you can't keep it. It says you can't make more than what you need for one meal. Once you made it, it's there. Doesn't say it's also to keep. אפילו צורך סעודה אחת אין רשאי לעשות לסמוך לסעודה. אבל אם בסעודה לסעודה, בני שעשו לנח שום דבר להניח לאוכל לאלתר, כמו שהסבור. Even for one meal, you can't make it unless it's right before the meal, not from one meal to the next.
If you make it right before Shabbos,
Yeah,
it's not permissible?
for Shabbos you can do anything. You can cook, you can shecht, you can do whatever you want.
No, that's Yom Tov you're talking. You're talking about Yom Tov or Shabbos?
What do you mean? You just said right before Shabbos.
Oh, yeah, right. Yes, you can check. But if you just add the salt without anything else to cucumbers, right before Shabbos, a minute before.
What's wrong?
Well, on Shabbos you can use them.
Yeah,
Yeah, same way.
no problem. No problem. The question is what? So you can't make it in advance because then you're pickling the water. If you make it in advance, it's like you're pickling the water. Even if you put oil between putting the water and the salt, so the salt doesn't mix well with the water, and it weakens it, so it's not really strong salt water. Nevertheless, it's also to make it in advance.
Back then, we didn't have mouthwash. So just to take some, make salty water and to rinse them off. So don't drink.
Yeah,
You're allowed to drink it on Shabbos for this purpose.
yeah.
But can it be more salt than a little bit extra salt? Because it's not for eating purposes.
So the only thing it can be,
Huh?
only thing it can be is 2/3 salt to 1/3 water.
So regardless if you're using it for eating or just for waste, you cannot do it. You cannot make very salty water.
2/3 not, because it looks like you're making for pickling fish. But that's too salty anyway, you're not gonna be able to use it. With Neusem Shnei Shlishi Melach Shush Maim, or Shamashkim, Oslas for the Madel Sotibel Suda Zubne Shnirka is a Muris Luchush Bidagam, Shadak Shamuris Lasses Yakach, was Luchbush Beshavas Meshamubida Meshabishal Meshnesbar. If you make 2/3 salt and 1/3 water or other liquids, it's also to make even a small amount for the purpose of dipping in this meal because it looks like you're making muryas, which he translates as brine. כמו ציר של דגים, מה שעושים לתוך הדג.
If you make it right before Shabbos, but you made a number of cucumbers, and then you take most of them or all of them out, you put on a plate, you serve, but there's some left over, and you put it back in,
Put it back in what?
and the liquid that you had, that you made before Shabbos, or now is it that you're pickling?
Let me just finish this 1 second.
Okay.
Shadak Shemuris Lassekach is a way to make brine like this, 2/3 to 1/3. Vasa Lichbush B'Shabbos Mishum Ibud, and you're not allowed to pickle on Shabbos because of Ibud, or Mishum Bishul Mishbor, or because of reasons of cooking, as was explained. So, Shmuel Leib, you're asking if you can put cucumbers back into brine. That's another way of wording your question. If you have pickles that are cucumbers that are not fully pickled yet, they're like half and half, as they say, and you took it out of the brine to serve, and then the meal is over, there's extra, are you allowed to put it back in? Or is that like pickling? It's only half pickled.
But the stuff that's inside it is in a way that not going to be pickled more than half. Wait,
I'm sorry?
the way they make it is not going to get pickled more than half.
How do you know?
Because it's like called half.
No, but if you leave it in there long enough, maybe it goes the whole way.
Just half.
How do you know?
It's the recipe for it. This why it sells as half.
There you have an argument. He says it's never going to go all the way if it's...
It's still on the shelf for 6 months. It's going to sell.
So I ask the question differently. You have pickles that you're middle of making, not half and half, regular pickles. You take some out to serve, and they're finished, and you want to put them back.
They
weren't half and half. They were regular pickles, but they're not fully made. Maybe it's also. I don't know. Maybe it is also.
The issue is to the maid say you're going to pickle. But if you see the pickle is already pickled, just left over, it's not by watching
Yeah,
it,
if it's already pickled, you can put it back in. That's no problem.
because it's not about time, right?
Yeah, correct. All right, Rabbi Say, to be continued tomorrow night. Honestly, don't expect me here before 8:15 because I daven mincha before I come here. So those of you that are logging in from overseas, 8:15 is like the earliest possible, but maybe even a little bit later than that. Today we had an issue in the back room, so it took us a bit longer to get started.
Should we just say past?
Let's aim for 8:25 realistically.
8:25. Okay.
I believe that's the plan.
Okay. I just like to set my alarm because if I snooze more than twice, sometimes I end up falling asleep.
Right. I'm going to aim for 8:25.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Hopefully, I won't be here tomorrow night, it's going to our show dinner.
So nice.